I've gotten all these nine, no, not nine, sorry, 4, 8, 12 guys pause at the same point in time in their delivery. And that is as soon as the front foot has hit the ground, which we call this position front foot strike. And right when the foot hits the ground, right when the foot hits the ground, right when the foot hits the ground, and so on. So that's where all of these different guys are at this current time, is front foot strike position. We can kind of see that there are some universal things that every pitcher, no matter the size, what handed, arm slot, what it may be, that we want to try to get to some checkpoints. One is at front foot strike is the very first time that our hand, our throwing hand, has flipped up or the hand has gotten above the elbow. And at this point in time, we're looking for the ball to be facing the same direction our chest is. So for lefties, that'd be ball facing first base. Righty, that'd be balls facing third base. We're also looking for our glove to be about like percentage wise, depending on how big of a path your glove took. We're like 70-80% of the way with that glove in its finish. And as we can see here, every one of these guys' gloves is within its body, within their body, right? Within their body. Maybe the elbow's outside, but the glove is within the body. The glove is within the body. Another thing we can see is with a lot of these guys is that we can still see the baseball at front foot strike on their backside, on their backside, on their backside, backside. Still slightly on the backside with Cueto. Same with Charlie Morton down there. Another thing that we can see is belt buckles. I see a whole lot of belt buckles facing us, the target, the catcher. And in order for that to occur, we need the back hip to have been driven forward. All right, we need the back hip, the back hips to start to come forward. And in order for the back hip to come forward, we need to have driven off of our back foot. We need to have driven off our back foot through our big toe, through the big toe, through the big toe, through the big toe. We're not lifting the heel up off the ground. We're like folding the foot over. Imagining that our base of our foot has Velcro on it and we're stuck to another sticky side of Velcro. And we're going to peel our foot off by taking like the outside of our foot and peeling it forward, which then helps bring our knee in, which helps rotate our knee and our foot, and our hip then gets to go forward. So you kind of take that thought process and see how he's kind of peeling it off the ground, while thinking, keep my big toe on the ground so everything can fold over my big toe, over my big toe. And when it gets over the big toe, that's when we can start to see the back hip. And if we do that with Reggie, can't see the back foot as well. Okay, here we go. I can see it better here. He's trying to peel it off the ground. Peel it off the ground through what? Through that big toe. And here comes that back hip. Here comes that back hip. Here comes that back hip into front foot strike. Who else's foot can we see? Okay, we can see Ramon's. Same thing. He's trying to peel that foot off the ground, not lift the heel up, but he's trying to keep the heel on the ground for as long as possible. So then he can roll over the big toe, which then brings that back hip forward. Back hip starting to come forward. Back hip starting to come forward. Back hip starting to come forward. Keuchel, same thing. Peeling that back foot off the ground folding over the front toe, which brings that back hip forward. Chapman's one of the best at it. Boom. 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 All right. So on and so forth. Every one of these guys has their own delivery, their own leg lift, their own stride, but we can see how very similar that back foot drive process is. That's the movement we have to do with the back foot in order to get the shin, knee, thigh, and all the bones in there to move in a specific way that then pushes that back hip forward. That then pushes that back hip forward. Pushes that back hip forward. Okay? From there, we can see that the stride direction is very different from one another, right? Like we have like Sanchez, Ramon, Familia, all very similar positions with their stride. And then you got guys like Crawford, Chapman, Keuchel, who are kind of more slightly like this front foot's going towards like and lined up with like their back foot's toes, where like Sanchez, Ramon, and Familia's front foot is lined up with like their back foot's heel. And then you got guys who are even more extreme than that, where like Arrieta, Nathan Evaldi, Joe Kelly, Johnny Cueto, and Charlie Morton, where their front foot is striding in front of their back foot's front toe. So for the righties, third base side of their front or the back toe. So what's going to happen now, because each of these guys have all gotten the back hip to come through, all of their upper bodies are relatively in very similar positions, but their front feet, yeah, their front feet are all in different spots. Like these three, same spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, same spot. And then, excuse me, these guys in their own spots. So like class 1, class 2, and then class 3, if we call it that. So what we have to think about now is all of the rotational energy of that back hip coming forward and this front hip opening up. That's rotation energy. All of the energy of that back foot driving us forward into that stride, into front foot strike, driving energy back from the backside to the front side, driving energy from the backside to the front side, driving energy from the backside to the front side. That's a linear energy. So we need to take that linear energy and that rotational energy that our lower half has gone through, and now we need to send it up to our upper half as quickly as we can, so that way as our upper half is going through its rotational energy, it can be fed that lower half's energy. So then the upper half can work even faster, even smoother, even more stress-free on the arm to produce maximum amount of power. So if we watch the guys that have the knee, or the stride rather, in the very same position, so Sanchez, Ramon, and Familia, if we watch, their knee is not going to move hardly at all to the glove side, to the glove side. It's just going to pretty much lock out, which allows that back shoulder to come forward, which allows that, which then allows the back shoulder to come forward. Which allows the back shoulder to come forward. Now you have the guys where the knee is slightly like across the body or in front of the body, like the Crawford. We will see as he rotates, the knee will slightly roll out, but then it'll quickly stop and lock out the same way these legs locked out. So Crawford is going to start to swivel out a little bit, and now it's not going to swivel no more. And it's going to just lock out so the back shoulder can rotate energy down and out in front the same way. So Keuchel, we said, was in the same similar situation. We'll see his front knee slightly roll out. There's that slight roll out from there to there, but now it's going to lock out the rest of the way. Boom, 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 boom. We might see a slight little roll out here on Lester. Nope, it just held the whole time until it locked out. Chapman is probably not going to roll out at all. It's going to just lock out from there. Boom. Oh, little roll out, but then locked out from there. Okay, now the guys that have the far stride across their body, who are what people would say they're striding across their body or throwing across their body. Watching what the knee does there, just stays in place. It's just locking out, and then his body comes through that leg or around that leg. Same thing, locking out, and then the body's coming around that leg or through the leg. Joe Kelly, just locking out, and then coming through that leg or around that leg. Cueto is just staying. Oh, that doesn't go much further. Sorry. Wish I would have known that. Charlie Morton doesn't go anywhere, just locks out. So you can rotate around it or through it. Okay, so with those thoughts in mind about the things we're looking for at front foot strike and what that then allows our body to do after while we throw the baseball, we will then get you guys into your front foot or show you what you guys look like at your front foot strike position after one more time of getting to see again what these positions look like at front foot strike, which again is the moment that front leg or your stride leg, your leg lift leg makes contact with the ground. So there's front foot strike again. Glove by body. Looking to have arm back behind head, if not even to behind our back. We're looking to see belt buckle and most importantly, that back hip coming forward or through. The reason it's come forward or through is because the back foot has turned over and rotated and driven away or peeled away from the pitching rubber. And then we want to make sure that that front knee, when it lands, the position it's in, depending on where the front foot lands, if it's straight in front, like tier 1 over here, like we said, then it just locks out. Locks out. If it's in like the tier but next to that, then it can roll out a little bit, but then it's got to lock out from there. And we notice that it always locked out and stopped moving and stabilized. It rolled a little bit, It rolled a little bit, then it stabilized. And look, the ball still hasn't even came from behind his head yet. By the time it stabilized, and now it's just locking out, locking out, locking out. Or if we're way across our body, we have to just straight lock it out from there and really make sure that we can get that back hip to keep continuing to come through. Keep continuing to come through. It's a little fun tongue twister. Make sure it keeps coming through. Make sure the back hip keeps coming through if we're getting our stride across our body. Again, there's nothing wrong with throwing across our body. We just got to make sure that that hip can keep coming through. And again, we're going to start at that front foot strike position and just seeing how these back foots are all turned over and how that gets the knee then to really turn over, which then drives that hip forward. Okay. And if we then just kind of take this back and slide over here just a little bit, and we just watch what that foot's doing and how it's driving into our stride, rotating that back foot into our stride. Boom, front foot strike. Same thing over here with DeGrom, watching that back foot turn over, turn over, turn over, finishing the knees complete rotation, back knees complete rotation, and ultimately, and most importantly, getting that back hip to start to come forward at front foot strike. So then everything can get continually driven out in front as we rotate down and around. Down, out in front as we continue to go through with our energy. Turn your body into a whip. Watching the back foot, how we're turning over, driving through that big toe, into our foot strike. Strong, stable knee. What's it going to do? It's going to lock out. It's going to lock out. It's going to lock out. Same thing with the back foot. Driving through that big toe there. Through that big toe into our front foot strike. So that way that back hip ultimately starts to get driven forward. So then we can finish everything out in front and down that mound. So we can get out in front and down that mound. Driving through that back toe, through that back toe, through that back toe, through that back toe, getting that back hit to start to come forward at front foot strike so then we can rotate everything down and out in front. Back foot, back foot, back foot, back foot. What's the knee doing during that time? Look at the back knee turning completely over, rotating all the way over. Kneecaps facing back of this heel. Turn that knee all the way over, getting that foot to fold over the big toe. When we do that into our stride, the back hip starts to come forward. So then we can rotate everything down out in front. What's that lead leg doing? Locking out, locking out, locking out, locking out. Back foot, how's it getting there? Driving through the big toe, driving through the big toe, driving through the big toe, through the big toe. So at front foot strike, we can then finish everything out in front, down and through. Same thing, watching the back foot, driving into front foot strike, driving into front foot strike, driving, turning over the big toe, getting that back knee all the way rotated so the back hip starts to come forward at front foot strike, forward at front foot strike. So then we can be out in front, locking that leg out, locking that leg out, locking that leg out. So we can get down through our release. Switching to the side view of everything, and we're just going to first start again with looking at the front foot strike position. So this is again the moment in time when trying in front foot makes contact with the ground, and same thing with AJ over here. Excuse me. Once that front foot gets settled on the ground and the knee braces that weight, and we can see that back foot position and how it's driven away from the rubber. How the back foot is driving away from the rubber, which pushes that back hip forward, which pushes that back hip forward at foot strike, forward at foot strike. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. We can also notice at front foot strike that the glove is finished or finishing, and we're looking for that, like that 90-ish degree being this is the time that the ball is facing the same direction as your chest. So righty's ball at third, lefty's ball facing first. Belt buckle's turned over. And then we'll watch as we go through the throwing motion how this front knee is going to brace itself. It's going to lock out. It's going to stabilize. It's going to block, whatever term you like to think or categorize it as. But that leg goes from a bend to no bend, from a bend to no bend, in order to help get all that energy that the lower body created and send it up into the arm and not allow it to stay down here in the knee and go forward or roll out. This is what allows us to throw the baseball down and out in front as we rotate around. And this is what allows us to rotate down, out in front and around through release. But we got to be able to start feeling ourselves really getting down. Really getting ourselves down at release and out in front with this forward trunk tilt. Our trunk is from our shoulders to our hips. This mass of our body we call our trunk. We want to be taking our trunk at foot strike is usually pretty close to up and down, and then we got to use our trunk to accelerate this throw down and out in front. When that foot lands in ground at front foot strike, we're usually more up and down, and we need to use that trunk to send that ball down and out in front. Next two examples. Oop, I didn't get Chapman a front foot strike yet. My bad. Okay, so if we watch this back foot, how it's just going to drive away from that rubber. Heel's not trying to come up in the air, it's just trying to turn over. What are we turning over? We're turning over the big toe. Watch this little piece of toe here that's in the bright, in the light. Should turn over. It folds over. The crease in the shoe is folding over that big toe so we can drive through it. And that's the movement that gets this back hip to go forward. That's what finally gets the pelvis to start to rotate forward. Gloves finishing, 90-ish degree angle, belt buckle, back hips coming through. Over here, watch that back foot. Through the big toe, through the big toe, through the big toe. Also noticing how long this back knee is staying back. Noticing how long this back knee is staying back and not constantly going in, down, 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 down as his body's going out. Because if that's the case, his weight's going down and out. We need to try to keep that weight back. We need to try to stay in this back hip so we can drive that back hip. So trying to keep that knee above that back foot as long as we can, as best we can. Then when we can't, then it's time to start to rotate. Boom. So then now the knee is strong, and we can see how it's locking out, locking out, locking out. We land at foot strike, and we can see knee holding strong, trying to lock out. Okay. Some more here. Kershaw. Back foot. Boom. Back foot. Boom. Back hip. Go forward. Back hips facing first. Start going forward. Start going forward with the back hip. All because the back foot's doing that. Get the knee to do that, which pushes and drives the pelvis forward. Gloves getting to finish. Arms in that 90-ish. Shoulders have not rotated yet. Shoulders have not rotated yet. Gloves starting to finish. Arms in that 90-ish. Back foot. Boom. 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 So we can see all these guys, different heights, different arm slots, different body shapes, different arm slots. But a lot of the same movements with the back leg, because that's the sequence that we need to do in order to get that back hip to start to come forward. So then the throw, boom, out in front and down. Okay. And then we got one more. Jake Arrieta, same thing. Back foot, 90-ish degree. Glove finishing. Belt buckle, back hip getting forward. We take that back. We watch the back foot. Boom. Boom. So then he can release down and out in front. Leg locking out. Front leg locking out. Front leg locking out. Front leg locking out.